Unsupported claims of election fraud have become popularized since Donald Trump's big lie in 2020.
Colorado did experience significant corruption in its gubernatorial election 120 years ago. 9 News reporter Rachel Krause looks back on that time and the changes that followed.
120 years ago, there was one election on every Coloradan's mind. Republican incumbent James Peabody running for governor against Democrat Alva Adams. Devin Flores with History Colorado says back then, corruption was common.
The police let people out of the county jail with the instructions, go vote as many times as you can in as many precincts as you can. There was one of these people who later testified to the state house that he individually had voted over 100 times in different precincts in Denver. And there was one precinct in Denver that had fewer than 100 registered voters in it, and more than 700 votes were cast in that precinct.
And rural areas were no more straight-laced.
Especially in places like Cripple Creek and Walsenburg and Trinidad, the companies that owned these industries controlled local politics so tightly that they could very easily and very aggressively threaten people's jobs.
When Alva won the governor's race by a narrow margin, Peabody demanded an investigation. It spanned 5 months with 2,000 witnesses and 200,000 pages of testimony. One county clerk risked his life rather than cooperate.
Put him on a train with a law enforcement official. And as the train was leaving Denver, just as it was on the outskirts of the city, he jumps off of the moving train and runs off into the night.
They caught him, but the election still wasn't settled.
So it became very, very difficult to figure out what actually happened because the investigation itself was flawed from the beginning.
Alva eventually resigned. Peabody took the job for 12 hours before he quit. Finally, the Lieutenant Governor Jesse McDonald was sworn in, making Colorado the only state to have 3 governors in 24 hours.
I would be really surprised if the Colorado 1904 election was not one of, if not the most corrupt elections in the 20th century in America.
Now, in the years following that election, a lot changed with how many Coloradans viewed elections. Flores says voters took a stand against corruption, forming citizen political organizations, and newspapers began to point out when political machines were influencing elections. And lawmakers took action to put laws in place that would ensure more fair elections.